From Johnson rekindling his beef with a DC executive, to realizing that he just doesn't fit into the DCU anymore, here's why The Flash made James Gunn hate The Rock. The Scarlet Speedster was played by Ezra Miller, and none of the cameos in the film include the wrestler. So where's all the hate coming from? Well, Gunn and Johnson did have beef. That's just been rekindled by The Flash's poor box office opening. The folks over at DC Studios probably aren't too happy about how poorly their movie did. I mean, it's new, it's star-studded, and it's part of the DCEU. Yet the film only made $139 million globally on the opening weekend. Considering the budget for this movie, it's shocking how little the movie's made so far. And as if the studio wasn't having a bad enough time already, it's rekindled Dwayne Johnson and James Gunn's feud, at least on Twitter, that is. The Flash's release has been extremely lackluster, and the two are now going to fight over control of DC, which is exactly what their beef's been about. After the release of Black Adam in late 2022, there was a massive tussle between the two. You see, Dwayne Johnson wanted a multi-film showdown that built up the rivalry between Superman and Johnson's Black Adam. On the other hand, Gunn wanted to take the studio in an entirely different direction. He didn't want to involve Black Adam as much as The Rock, understandably, wanted. So what happened? James's camp won, obviously. He and Peter Safran got promoted to co-heads of DC Studios. It all made perfect sense, because Black Adam 2 had bombed at the box office. I mean, the movie did make $391 million, but then you pit that against a $195 million budget and $40 million in reshoots. You see what the problem is. But now that The Flash hasn't done too well either, folks are pointing out that Black Adam performed better than The Flash, despite not being promoted as much. Here's what they're saying. Dwayne's fans are stating their grievances, talking about the fact that Black Adam came out in October 2022. Firstly, a summer release is always much more favorable, and secondly, back then COVID was still kind of a thing, and folks were being extremely cautious. One fan stated that Black Adam bombing was a combination of bad marketing, damaged brand, and a weak word of mouth. Yet, it made more money than the movie with all these characters, despite not being released in the Chinese market. Another fan said, "So now looking back, maybe it wasn't really such a big flop, and The Rock does have the power to bring people in." Some fans did point out that the entire reason why The Flash tanked was because of Ezra Miller's controversies. No, seriously, there were a lot of folks on Twitter talking about the star's extremely problematic behavior. Those folks even mentioned that Warner Brothers and DC didn't handle the situation well at all. But there's still a side that's siding with Gunn. I mean, these folks are quiet right now, but they're still there. One Twitter user asked if Warner is regretting going with Gunn over Rock, but someone replied to them, telling them that if The Rock were in charge, we'd be getting Black Adam vs. Superman movies forever. So according to some people, Warner isn't exactly regretting anything. Another user claimed, "Rock said the hierarchy of power in the DCU is about to change, and his movie made more than Shazam 2, and a movie featuring most of the Justice League, so he was cooking after all." Yep, he's always cooking. But no, look, it's easy to say The Rock was right and all that, now that The Flash bombed. But the truth is, back then, it really did seem like something that could pull in a lot of people. Something that could bring the DCU close to the MCU. So what the hell went wrong? Well, 2 words. Ezra Miller. This movie has seen its fair share of troubles before its release. And according to most fans, all of this is happening because of the super-duper controversial actor. A few weeks before the movie was released, it generated some crazy hype. I mean, so many people called it the best movie ever. Tom Cruise, someone who knows a little about movies, said that this is exactly what Hollywood needed right now. Yet despite that, it failed. Because folks, Ezra's been the center of just so much, from legal issues to allegations of grooming. And here's the thing. Folks at DC, and even Andy Muschietti, the director of the films, praised Ezra. But other than that, they didn't do much. They didn't address these problems head-on, and instead of scrapping the star for someone who the audience might like, the studio just limited Miller's PR activities. The actor wasn't in any interviews whatsoever. Even when the 30-year-old attended the movie's premiere, they were absent from participating in any promotional activities. Then the actor went ahead and did something that pissed the fans off even more. Ezra shared a statement in August 2022 blaming all of the problematic things that the actor did on mental health. Ezra stated that they're going through a time of intense crises and facing severe, complex mental health issues. The actor apologized to everyone as well. But the problem is, fans thought it was all hollow, and that the actor was trying to save face, and make sure the movie doesn't bomb. But Ezra isn't the only individual to blame here. The director of the film messed up too. It's simple. The Flash's VFX is bad, super bad, and almost every fan who's seen the film will tell you that. In fact, the effects look as if they're unfinished. At this point, it feels like all the director did was cram as many cameos as possible while getting some interns to do the effects. According to Andy, though, this is how it's supposed to look. He says that the bad VFX isn't because it was unfinished. No, it's actually a feature. Okay, so remember the entire baby scene? Don't the babies look odd? Yeah, Andy says that they were ripped out of an early 2000s video game on purpose. According to the guy, the point is we're in the perspective of the Flash. When he's running, everything's distorted. The lights, the textures, you name it. The Scarlet Speedster basically enters this water world, and the movie shows us that too. To Andy's credit, the rest of the movie looks equally bad. So hey, the consistency shows that this really was something that was planned. But hear me out. The concept of the entire world slowing around the speedster while they move at regular speed isn't anything new. In Days of Future Past, time slows down and every character freezes. Quicksilver, on the other hand, casually gets to work. Let's be real here. It's one of the coolest, most creative scenes ever. And even with the CW show, the VFX wasn't as fancy, but they didn't look this bad either. Maybe Muschietti should have looked at what's been done before, so we wouldn't have to deal with this CGI monstrosity. No, seriously. And remember how I mentioned Tom Cruise liked this film? Yeah? What the heck was he thinking? Anyway, back to The Rock. Because we've talked about how bad this movie is. But there's another harsh reality, and that's the fact that maybe DC just isn't the place for him. DC's been making a bit too many mistakes. There was so much hype around this movie, and yet they still fumbled it. So you know what The Rock should do instead of trying to control DC. He should realize that the best choice for him is Fast and Furious, and nothing else. The entire reason he quashed his beef with Vin Diesel was because he realized that Hobbs is who he is. Playing that character is what's best for his career. The time he left Fast and Furious and the time he finally got a new franchise off the ground were suspiciously close. He had big plans. He wanted sequels, spin-offs, and most importantly, he wanted to fight Henry Cavill's Superman. But then, his movie bombed at the box office, and DC realized they didn't need him. Once he lost out on his superhero franchise, it became clearer than ever that he needs to be a part of Dom's family. On top of that, his show Young Rock was also canceled. And if that wasn't enough, his football league, the XFL, reported a $600 million loss. Yes, there's no doubt about the fact that he's one of the most famous actors on the planet. But the truth is, he just hasn't been able to get his own franchise off the ground. Till then, all he can hope for is to get a sequel to his Fast and Furious spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw. And there you have it. From realizing that Fast and Furious is his one true franchise, to Johnson rekindling his beef with a DC executive. This was everything on why The Flash made James Gunn hate The Rock.